You know, when you see a river running dry or a green plain turning to dust, it's easy to think it's all over, that an ecological disaster is just inevitable. But sometimes, when it feels like all is lost, the most incredible saviors show up. And in this explainer, we're diving into the amazing story of how a few key animals, acting like nature's own engineers, can literally bring entire ecosystems back from the very brink of death.
So when things look really dire, who are these heroes? You're probably picturing teams of scientists in lab coats, or maybe massive multi-million-dollar conservation projects. But the real answer, as we're about to see, is often way more surprising and, yeah, a whole lot furrier.
Yep, you heard that right. These three animals, in three totally different parts of the world, have pulled off what we humans often struggle to do. They've managed to rescue dying landscapes and bring them roaring back to life. And their stories, well, they're nothing short of extraordinary.
We're going to start with a story from China that almost feels like a modern-day legend. It's a tale of how over 1 million tiny engineers supposedly turned a barren, lifeless desert into a thriving green oasis.
I mean, just look at this transformation. On one side, you have the Dalit region as it was, a huge, lifeless sea of sand, a complete dead zone. And on the other, what it supposedly became, a green valley so fertile it could support farms and whole communities. The big question is, how on earth did that happen?
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, we have to share a quick disclaimer that comes from our source material. As absolutely incredible as this story is, there aren't any reliable official sources to confirm it's actually true. You know how it is, sometimes these amazing tales from remote places take on a life of their own. So for now, let's treat it as the fantastic legend it just might be.
So the legend goes like this. Back in 1988, a Chinese scientist came up with a pretty radical but simple idea: release a bunch of French Rex rabbits into the desert. As the rabbits just did what rabbits do, digging and burrowing for roots, they were constantly turning over and aerating the soil. And their waste? Well, it was the perfect natural fertilizer, loading the barren ground with nutrients and even undigested seeds.
Now, a handful of rabbits couldn't have pulled this off. The secret ingredient was sheer numbers. Rabbits, as you know, reproduce like crazy. A single pair can have something like 40 babies a year. With no predators around, their population supposedly exploded to over 1 million. It was this massive army of tiny, furry farmers that truly changed the landscape.
And the results were reportedly staggering. The plant survival rate supposedly hit an unbelievable 96%. Rabbit farming turned into a real business, creating new jobs, and the entire region's economy just boomed. All of it, supposedly, thanks to the humble rabbit.
Okay, so from a story that might be a myth, we're now moving to a case that is 100% confirmed. Let's head over to the United States to meet our next animal engineer, the beaver.
So here's the situation in Utah. Rising temperatures were causing a massive crisis. The rivers, which are the absolute lifeblood of the region, were starting to dry up. And this threatened everything. We're talking fish populations, farming, tourism, even just the local drinking water. The whole ecosystem was right on the verge of collapse.
The solution that researchers came up with? Beavers. It's so elegant. Their natural instinct is to build dams, and this one simple act has these huge cascading effects. The dams create ponds and wetlands, which act like natural sponges, storing water during droughts when it would normally just disappear. These new ponds give fish and other animals a place to live, allowing the whole river ecosystem to survive.
And the project was a huge success, especially for the people living there. The water level came back up, the fish were thriving, and the community was revitalized. This quote really says it all. People could finally enjoy their river again, swimming, kayaking, fishing. It was a complete revival, all made possible by these incredible animal engineers.
And now for our final story, and maybe the most famous one of all. We're going to Yellowstone National Park. This is a truly epic tale of how removing just one single species can cause an entire ecosystem to unravel, and how bringing it back can save everything.
This timeline really gives you the big picture. By 1926, the wolves were completely gone from Yellowstone. Fast forward to the 1970s, and with no major predator, the elk population absolutely exploded, and the park's health went into a nosedive. The huge turning point came in 1995 when wolves were brought back.
So why were the wolves gone in the first place? Well, the short answer is us, humans. Back in the 19th and early 20th centuries, settlers saw wolves as pests because they were attacking their livestock. So for decades, hunters just wiped them out, until by 1926, not a single one was left.
What happened next is a perfect and pretty devastating example of something called a trophic cascade. Basically, it's a massive chain reaction that ripples all the way down through the food web when you remove a keystone species, like a top predator.
It all started right here. Think of the ecosystem like an intricate puzzle. The wolf was a major piece, one holding a lot of other pieces in place. And when that one piece was taken out, the whole thing was thrown completely out of balance.
So, with their only real predator gone, the elk population just went through the roof. They multiplied without anything to keep them in check, and these massive herds started to overwhelm the park, grazing without any fear and just eating everything in sight.
These huge elk herds ate, well, everything. They stripped the forests of young trees like willows and aspens. This didn't just damage the forest, it destroyed habitats for birds and, really importantly, it removed the main food source for beavers, who pretty much vanished from the park. And here's the final domino to fall. With no beavers building dams, the river started to flow faster. And with no trees to provide shade, the water got warmer. Cold water fish couldn't survive the new temperatures, and their populations crashed. The entire system was breaking down.
But then, in 1995, just 8 wolves were brought back. And they did more than just hunt elk. Their very presence changed the elk's behavior. This landscape of fear returned. The elk started avoiding open valleys where they were vulnerable, and that gave the plants a chance to recover. Willows and aspens grew back, birds returned, the beavers had wood to build dams again, and the rivers started to cool down. Bit by bit, the wolves were healing the entire forest.
So after these 3 incredible stories of rabbits, beavers, and wolves, what's the big lesson here? What's the main thing we should take away from all this?
The crucial takeaway is this: nature is a deeply interconnected web. It's not just a random collection of plants and animals, it's a finely tuned system. And as the Yellowstone story shows so powerfully, when you pull on just one single thread, when you remove just one piece of that puzzle, the whole thing can start to unravel.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought. These animals aren't just creatures living out their lives. They are essential engineers, gardeners, and guardians of their own environments. And it really makes you wonder, if these unlikely heroes can save entire ecosystems, what other natural saviors out there have we completely overlooked?